there is no stock in those games, and therefore,
Uh.
why should TSM try? Like, they don't
Mhm.
owe any respect to you. If they want to try Four Guardians or whatever, let them, because that might make you go, "Ah, there might actually be some degree of, niceness to what they're running." I mean, you go over to Fnatic, they were running 5 bookies and 5 judges at some
Yeah.
point. Like, at some point, all of these metas that have been formed, even if you look at Overwatch like GOATs, at some point, they ran with that in Scrim, and the other team were like, what the fuck are these guys doing?
Let's move on. We had a really interesting exchange this week on Twitter, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of rumors that I heard from sort of scrims in Overwatch, for example. Sentinels and TSM, they scrimmed. I don't know how often they scrim. And Hazed, first of all, he doesn't. Fair enough. I'm a Hazed fanboy. I'll say it right now. He doesn't call out the team. But apparently it was Sentinels, because then you see Sinatra. Of course, he gets straight on involved, and all of a sudden, what was just passive aggressiveness turns out into, "Hey, you're a dickhead. No, you're a dickhead," and then clown emojis for everybody.
I love the fact that Hayes is pretty much at this point when he says "holy shit," like, the old man, like, "Listen here, you little shit," just fully goes off at him. But then everybody has to get involved. I want to see that VOD. I want to see a whole production and shebang, and it would be nice to see these two face off, but one of them can't seem to qualify into the main tournament, so it's unlucky. I will give it that much, but yeah, it's a tough old one.
We can delve into it, right? Because basically, what was being both teams accused each other of playing in like a non-competitive manner.
Mhm.
You're sort of seeing a lot of the responses here in this particular thread. But generally speaking, it sounds like TSM were getting accused for trolling by playing 4 Guardians. But if you watch VCT, they actually were playing Guardians.
Yep.
So and Hayes was like, "Listen, we're not actually throwing. We actually think this could work." And he also admitted, the best part is he also admitted that like Sentinels were the better team.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
He's like, "Oh, you guys are just like running around with 4 Guardians." Hayes is like, "No, I mean, you're a better team than we are right now. We're literally just trying to do this." So I read it. I'm just like, did Sinatra miss the part where like there was just the admission that they were better, and also that they weren't? I don't know. You can probably just let that kind of stuff go. But obviously, the community loves this stuff. I think Sinatra is always going to rise to this kind of thing.
So is Hayes.
And to be fair,
so is everybody from TSM.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like Hayes obviously tweets it out. Like you probably don't need to tweet it out. The thing is that like even if one of those guys is wrong, they won't realize it because their fanboys are just jerking them off.
Exactly.
Like, the whole way through. Go,
Exactly.
Daddy, let him have it. Oh, yeah, Sinatra, what a juiced up gaming warlord. Yeah, you tell him he's old.
It is literally like the cartoon lackey of like, yeah, get him, boss. just shit.
That's
it
the thing.
literally is just Timmy's just fucking prodding the guys like, now, like trying to get them to say shit to each other so they can get some entertainment, right?
There's no drama in there, to be honest, man. This is just really fun. Like, I don't know if you guys watch enough fucking Twitter right now for any Valorant, but everybody just says Valorant Twitter is just amazing. Everybody is able to just shit on each other and still have fun with it. And when it comes down to lands, everybody's still hanging out around the bar or whatever, or shaking hands and chilling between matches. Like there's no issues whatsoever. I think everybody's just feeding the trolls and feeding the trolls. It's like, hey, I'm just feeding my koi fishes and I'm just walking and swimming around. It's amazing to watch. It's fun. And it's just, again, people are just taking it two by the letter, two by the book. And it's pretty funny how you have all these Reddit detectives start coming out with their own storylines based on certain tweets and stuff like that.
I mean, fine. I mean, that's what Reddit's for, though. Like, Reddit is for. I always love it when like people are like, wow, people on Reddit they just come up with these ridiculous ideas. It's so stupid. I'm like, excuse me, Reddit literally exists for baseless speculation of sports and esports and fans of anything. That is literally the point of Reddit. You can't go on Twitter and be like, oh, I saw this stupid. Okay, to be fair, like. There was some moron that tweeted at me the other day, and I did go off about that. But like Reddit, like you can't be like, I can't believe these people are saying these things on Reddit. Yeah, because they have no fucking accountability. Their avatars all look like the same fucking marshmallow dude. No one knows their real name. That is literally the point of it. It's entertainment. It's like it's fun to speculate about this shit. But I agree. Valorant Twitter is the best. I mean, I personally think that Europe could use some spice. But I remember Hayes being like, yeah, like, I mean, the probably problem. Sorry, to be fair, we saw a little bit of. It's not in the show, so we probably won't go too deep into it. But we saw like artists, sharing some takes, most of which have been deleted.
Hot
by
takes,
now, by the
deleted
way.
hot takes.
Yeah. So it's. Again, like I can't really sort of verify the body of what he was saying. Essentially, he was sort of defending people that were apologizing to a particular analyst in the European scene because they sort of there was a player that stoked up a bit of drama, and the theory is that player was about to get picked up to a large team that was being told to apologize. Europe could use some spice. I think they could still get there. I think, but I didn't feel like, and when I read that thread and when I read artists getting involved, I didn't feel like it was really lighthearted. I didn't feel like that was the kind of thing like when they just get to land and they'd all just chill out. As much as artist is scouse and he's a bit of a larrikin, I was just like, this is kind of uncomfortable to read. I don't know.
It's going a bit too far. He did also just flat out accuse Nisal for cheating as well, which was the sort of rumor going around. So, like stuff like that is kind of like that's the line, and it's great that you went there because I feel like a lot of people are still thinking about Nisal considering his reputation prior. Like that's always going to haunt him because he cheated in previous games. Sorry, but that's kind of how it is. It's not like with the stuff in Counter-Strike at the moment, that's going to happen at Sunmo with more people, no doubt, in Valorant. So. Like, Artist has some funny takes when he's calling other teams just flat out shit and stuff, like on a broadcast. But yeah, the Yinsu stuff is just a whole different ballpark and really just sour taste in everybody's mouth. Nobody comes off happy in that. You think Yinsu's pleased that a player's just flat out quit? No, she doesn't want any of the drama, and neither do any of we.
Yeah, we touched on it. I think that's more than enough for me. Yeah, I think maybe if it was other people that wasn't just artists. In Europe, maybe it's like a bit of back and forth instead of like you're just a cheater, and then like I don't know. So I mean, I do think Valorant Twitter is great. I actually think it's because of the average maturity level and age of the players. I can compare this to Overwatch. There are a small number of Overwatch personalities that talk a bit of trash. Most are scared because fans go fucking bonkers, and they care about that. You know what I mean? I see like a bunch of people in Valorant do it. They don't give a shit what the fans do. Like the reaction, by the way, from the fans is the same, if not worse, in Valorant, right? Like Valorant is pretty toxic, but the players don't particularly care about that, or about they don't feel beholden to the consequences. Where in Overwatch, like people literally get like harassed IRL because some fans are just fucking insane. And I think that is something that's characteristic of Overwatch and League of Legends communities a little bit there as well. So. It's not very spicy in Overwatch. We have, the scene, the top scene is comprised very heavily of players that hail from South Korea. Some of them talk trash, but a lot of them don't. For some, it's cultural. For some, it's a language barrier. For some, it's purely respect, right? That's just not how they want to conduct themselves. And that's fine. Like no one's going to make them do that. But I think the culture around the game also makes that more unpalatable, and the community just it tends to sort of lash out against that much more than in Valorant, where it's almost encouraged to a degree. So you can argue that's not always positive. You could argue that's not always a good thing, that a community does not self-police to that degree. That is, I'm sure people are divided on it. I personally think that Valorant Twitter is better. I think that the scene is more amusing. It's funny. As long as it doesn't cross the line, and in some cases it will. Because players straddle the line between what's okay and what isn't okay, and the definition of what is okay and what isn't okay actually changes. Go and watch anything from the 1980s on TV, and you'll see that. So there will always be this kind of friction. But I love the Valorant scene for that reason. It's one of the biggest reasons that I like being a part of it. So
it's a very good sense of humor. Like the DAP stuff is the best stuff. Where he's claiming that the game's too easy because of RNG. Now every time they lose, it's like, oh, the game's not as easy anymore, is it, Daps? And he can't help but laugh at this point because he fucking said it, like he put himself in that position and he's going to get teased for it. But at the end of the day, that's all it is, teasing. Like,
and that's the thing.
That's the best part of it. It's just all tongue in cheek.
It's just us as a community, or the people that are following these teams, just have to, again, understand that what's teasing and what shouldn't bleed into the toxicity of voice chats and stuff like that too, right? And sexism and all that stuff. So let's learn as we go, but let's try to learn quickly than not. Please.
to circle back to what we're talking about, right? You know, it kind of brings up the question of the purpose of scrims, right? You don't want to waste each other's time in scrims by doing ridiculous stuff. But we've seen plenty of rivalries develop as a result of teams going head to head in scrims. What it sounds like from what I can see in this thread, that Sentinels thought TSM were kind of trolling with this Four Guardian strat. Hayes was like bold faced, like coming out and saying, I could play this off and be like, oh yeah, but he's like, no, you are better than us. We were trying something. Sinatra didn't seem to accept that, right? I think this is, you know, kind of something that can get sort of misperceived sometimes. And maybe Sentinels responded to what they thought was trolling from TSM by just fucking about. It's hard to say, but you know, it makes me wonder what the value is of scrims in that sense. You know, where if not scrims can you try this stuff? You can't 5-stack ranked. That's not possible now with players at, you know, at Immortal and above. So
Correct.
Where else do you get to put this stuff into maybe get a sister team or a team that you have a good relationship with that you scrim with regularly, but that can cause problems if both those teams improve too much, and then, you know, like you have to play against the same team in a grand final.
Yeah.
You know?
And even
So-
then, like if
sorry.
you're talking about sister teams, it brings in the issue of the whole non-compete kind of thing, where or conflict of interest. If you're like a
Yeah.
Cloud9 white or a Cloud9 blue, and sorry, let's not take the Cloud9 blue and white because it's two different things. But let's say Cloud9 blue has an academy team and they're practicing against each other. And once we get to the bigger leagues, you can't really have both teams competing against each other, right? And like you said here, Mitch, not only can you not stack 5 players into ranked anymore, but it's also a different scenario when you're stacking 5 players into rank playing a pug versus players that probably, even at Radiant, we hear from Steel's stream, they don't have the same type of level and capabilities of performing as a tier 2, tier 3 player, or tier 1 player even into Valorant. So when you're looking back at it, it's like, well, the best place to practice it is definitely in scrims, and which is why you had the recent changes that allowed for us to play every single round, all 24 rounds in scrims format, and not to play only first or 13. Because if you're playing just to win, then it negates everything also in terms of practicing scrims. What's the point of playing to win if you're not going to try different types of strategies and different types of play styles and different types of agent composition? Which is why now, again, I think we're going to talk about it later, but maybe that's why sometimes the general population gives so much
Credence.
yeah, to like TSM that comes in with like double smokes or double initiator and be like, what the fuck is this? Why are they not using a Sentinel anymore? And there's a reason why they're doing that, and there's a reason why they're practicing that as well in the scrim setting. So there is definitely a lot of importance into that. I mean, I don't know if you've played anything at a pro level here, Ryan, but I think I could ask you the question and bring it back to you, Mitch. Like, you've played pro COD 4, and I'm pretty sure you know the importance of playing scrims for these matches, where for me it was like great 2 back then.
The amount of times I walked into a LAN after winning every fucking scrim 3 weeks prior just to get sharted on in the semis. Like, it's just, also, I was shit at LAN. That was also my problem. Like, the desk was never high enough, or like the table was
The chair
too
was
rocky or whatever.
different.
Also, my teammates could actually feel it when I banged the table as opposed to when I was at home, and that threw them off.
Your FPS is too high compared to home. It's
Dude, I
crisp.
was shit at LAN. I used to bring a ruler to try and like get everything the same as at home. I just couldn't adapt. I was never meant to be a pro player. But Ryan, I'm sure you have some thoughts on this as well, because we go back in the same scenes.
Yeah, I mean, like with TSM especially, because they do some experimental stuff, it's not, you know, completely different to what we expect. So you got to give credit to TSM there. They don't get to try it out against the best teams. Who are they meant to be trying out? And also with my small experience sort of doing stuff with teams in scrims for Valorant, if you're in a scrim and you're playing to win the scrim, then you're doing it all wrong. Like, it's not about that. I'm pretty sure Sentinels would be more annoyed if they're trying to play up to a team that is just, you know, playing some sweaty Valorant in order to say, hey, we beat Sentinels in the scrim wars. Like, that's not what they're for. They're meant to practice stuff out. And yeah, if it's TSM versus Sentinels, maybe you want up the ante a little bit. But as far as you're concerned, it's a friendly. You don't have England v Germany in football in a friendly showing everything that they're doing. If they're
Slide tackling each other, biting their
exactly,
ass
right? Like, there is no stock in those games, and therefore, why should TSM try? Like, they don't owe any respect to you. If they want to try Four Guardians or whatever, let them, because that might make you go, there might actually be some degree of, you know, niceness to what they're running. I mean, you go over to Fnatic, they were running 5 bookies and 5 judges at some point. Like, At some point, all of these metas that have been formed, even if you look at Overwatch like GOAT, at some point they ran with that in Scrim, and the other team were like, "What the fuck are these guys doing?" And then suddenly GOATs becomes the meta for a year in Overwatch. It starts with stuff like this, so you can't blame TSM for at least trying to do something a little bit more, experimental, as opposed to trying to play the same Valorant that everybody else is playing at. Clearly, they don't want to do that based off what we saw with challenges. And do you blame them for it as well? It just, chill out, sense.
Well, fuck. Look at Code 7 using stingers back in the beta days, and look at how stingers are being used widely today. So
yeah,
I
Robert is
think
a
that's
pioneer. We know that.
I thought there was some kind of social contract that was kind of agreed to by teams and Scrims that the fucking result didn't matter. But every time we go into a LAN, the team's like, no, yeah, we've been winning all our Scrims lately, so I think we're ranked 1 NA. I don't really see why it's so hard to believe. It's like you get some teams when they scrim who treat scrims what they are, and some teams actually, maybe less experienced ones that haven't got schlacked enough when it actually comes to the real games because they got a false sense of security, maybe think that they are actually there to try and win some sort of brownie points. But if you feel disrespected by what the opponent team is, within reason, mind you, by what the opponent team is doing in scrims, you need to ask yourself why the fuck you're there. You know what I mean? Would you, if you're honestly going to tell me I can't practice against this kind of play style, I mean, still better than fucking queuing with one of your teammates in ranked and hoping to queue with the rest of them. So I don't know. Scrimbucks don't mean shit for the reasons that we've discussed. I still find it very amusing when people try and use that to sort of justify their opinions, of themselves being heighted.